Hello and welcome to another episode of Attacking Third, a CBS Sports soccer podcast. I'm Sandra Herrera, lead NWSL writer for CBS Sports. Joined today, as always, by my colleague and co-host Lisa Roman, NWSL analyst and broadcaster. On today's episode, we are going to recap the NWSL match between Gotham FC and Kansas City NWSL. And then we are going to preview the United States women's national team against South Korea. Before we get into all of that, a quick reminder to follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. You can also head on over to our YouTube page and hit subscribe to never miss a new video, interview, or whenever we go live. Plus, you can catch great extended NWSL highlights. So head on over to youtube.com/attacking third and hit subscribe. Lisa, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Sandra. I'm good. We had really good NWSL action, especially during this international break. And then we get more U.S. women's national team action coming up in the week. It's good this season for NWSL. It's hot. It's spicy. I love it. How are you? How's your weekend?
So far, so good. Can't complain. It's a nice, crisp fall weekend in
Love that.
Chicago. And we don't, contrary to popularity, we don't really get a real fall season. We get about anywhere from like 12 to 14 days of actual good fall weather.
Mhm.
So I'm taking it this
Crisp.
weekend for sure.
There's something about crisp fall air, and the crisp is like you can pronounce every letter in that word. You can feel every wind and crunchy leaf in the air during fall. I
It
love it. It's very fall in Philly right now. The trees are all changing colors. It's beautiful. It's
See,
beautiful.
I love it. You know what it also brings? It's like it just feels like playoffs. Like
Yes.
when the fall, like when the fall comes in and the weather starts to dip and change, it just feels that way. It's just like, that's what I smell in the air. I smell playoffs. Let's talk about it a little bit. Let's keep that perspective. We're gonna keep that energy going into this one singular NWSL match that we have to recap today. During the international window, it was Gotham FC versus Kansas City. Kansas City, the hosts in this one, the only NWSL fixture for this international window. And these two teams played out to a 0-0 draw. Lisa, I think we have to start with picks. I think we have to start with the picks in this one. Why don't you let the listeners know about us? Tell
We
on
both
us.
picked Gotham to win. So if Gotham won this match, they clinched playoffs. They were in. All is a neat little bow. And lo and behold, Kansas City, the wrecking ball of the league, my most favorite thing to see right now, a team that is out of playoff contention, come in and just destroy the hopes and dreams of other teams, at least for another week. So we both picked Gotham. So we are both losers, and I'm totally okay with a draw in this
Let me
sense.
let me tell you, I'm there with you because more than honestly, more than being right, I love a good spoiler, and I know we've been talking about it week in and week out. I've been using that same verbiage when it comes to talking about this team specifically, but there's just something about this Kansas City NWSL side, especially at home, especially in this second half of this season, with this draw,
Mhm.
this scoreless draw, they now remain undefeated at home in 7 straight home matches. And
Yeah.
that is just like so impressive. Like when you're looking ahead into next year and sort of thinking about like all of those things that come into play with an expansion side when you're like still trying to get used to playing with each other, still trying to develop chemistry, still trying to define like what your team culture is, like
Mhm.
looking at all of those things in this second half and then sort of seeing that um kind of come out from this Kansas City side on like seeing that and be executed on the pitch where they're going hard in the second half and they're going head to head with these other top tier teams. It's very very impression. It was so funny, like you mentioned ahead of this kickoff. The socials for the league were talking about like here's the playoff scenario, and they've been doing that as the weeks have been winding down because the table is still so narrow and there are still playoff spots up for grabs. And they said this is the scenario for today, as they refer to it as like a simple scenario. So like all Gotham had to do was just go in on the road and pick up a win against 10th place Kansas City, and they tried to do that in this match. Let's talk about it a little bit. This match kicks off. Player demonstrations still happening throughout the league. This this game almost looks for a second, Lisa, as if it is going to go a certain kind of way. Gotham, to their credit, just sort of they came out on the front foot. They were on the road. They looked like they had a mission, right? They're like, we know the scenario. Let's try to get it done. Ifeoma Onumonu getting really, really involved in early attempts there. She has been just so good. Such a great talent in the attack for this team. But then we started to see Kansas City kind of play themselves into the match a little bit, but it was I don't want to say it was too little too late, because that ended up not being the case. But in terms of this opening goal, it sort of maybe felt like that, because Gotham FC gets on the scoreboard first, and it's Margaret Purse with the opening goal, a ridiculous interception by McCall Zerboni to feed Purse, and then Purse just takes the space a little bit in front of her, and then all of a sudden, as she starts to get swamped by 3 Kansas City players, she's like, I'm just going to take this shot from distance, and it finds the back of the net. It was so impressive of an opening goal.
That goal was so fun, and the sequence leading up to it was really fun. When we dive into this and look at the starting lineup, we knew internationals, a few were out for both sides, honestly missing really big players. Carli Lloyd, Estelle Johnson, Kaylin Sheridan, Evelyn Beans for Gotham. And then for Kansas City, Katie Bowen, Rachel Corsi, A.D. Franch, Mariana Laura Oquette, Victoria Pickett, Desiree Scott, Jessica Silva. Desiree Scott probably being the biggest one. Yeah, 7 in that lineup there for Kansas City out on international duty. So things were going to look different when this game kicked off, no matter what, especially when you look back at the first time they played. But with that time, also a 1-1 draw, both the results. The teams have played 1-1 draws. So Didi Herrera sliding into goal for Gotham, and she hasn't played since August 7th. I mean, when she plays, though, she starts and she plays 90, and she does a fantastic job. We saw that during the Olympics this summer. But man, McCall Zerboni, her vision in the midfield, and that's what shifted for Gotham throughout this match. Their midfield unit was very aware of how Kansas City wanted to play, getting the ball from center backs to outside backs, and then feeding it in through the middle and then out wide again. It was a nice little combination play that Kansas City has gotten very good at. It's a bit predictable, but it works for them because they have good ball movement and good movement off the ball, that they are able to do that. And McCall Zerboni stepped in and intercepted this pass. And you said it best, the goal from Margaret Purse, just phenomenal. This is like, we've seen her go out with injury and not play lots of minutes in games. And sometimes that can set a player back, at least mentally, and confidence level, seeing your teammates like Onumonu and Carli Lloyd doing so well, even Paige Monahan coming back from injury as well. But Margaret Purse has just taken this opportunity to step back on the field and say, I'm willing to be the best. I want to be the best. And she now takes her goal scoring abilities up to 9 in this game. She has scored in the last 5 games. She's scored a goal, at least 5 goals. That's something, Margaret Purse, for being out and injured half of the season for at least a few weeks there in the middle. And then Kansas City, they didn't let up. They wanted this to be their game. I think Kristen Hamilton had a few opportunities, at one big one right towards the end of the first half, a breakaway that she didn't end up getting on frame, but she makes it up just a few minutes later. She puts a lot of high pressure on Gotham's back line, and that's what needed to be done. It was Erica Skrofsky that Hamilton picks off. She picks off the pass from her and then dives into the 18-yard box, and PK for Kansas City right before the halfway line. And who else but Kristen Edmonds to step up and hammer this one home. You love to see that, a player in Edmonds that has slid from center back to outside back to midfielder, and now she's slotted in where Desiree Scott usually plays, the 6, the defensive midfield position. And I think she did a nice job there. She's such a dangerous player because she can play everywhere and still be a leader on the field, knowing what she needs to do in her role and helping direct what everyone else needs to do. So I'm happy that she got the PK.
It was an exciting first half. I mean, to see Gotham go up, in about 25 minutes or so, and you're kind of like, okay, so Gotham is feeling it, like they know what they have to do. But again, it's I think this is going to be the Kansas City episode, y'all. Like really, where we're going to take the time to wax poetic about this team, this last place expansion team in the league. But we've seen that out of this Kansas City side. I mean, we saw it just last week where their opposition goes up and then they try to come right back and mix it up and like get push for an equalizer. And we saw that in this first half on this Kansas City side. So after Gotham goes up, you have Kate Del Fava trying to come back right away on the other end, and so on and so forth, and these this constant kind of picking and choosing your moments of when to attack and to apply pressure ended up paying off. And we're at the end of the season, so maybe we're looking at bigger picture type of things at this point, and looking at somebody like a Kristen Hamilton getting these starts with this Kansas City side. You can see the difference that it's making. It's a very promising attack that looks like there's going to be in place there with Kansas City, with somebody like a Hamilton, with somebody like a Darian Jenkins getting more starts, getting more consecutive minutes under their belt. It's going to be something that we have to keep an eye on for sure. And even though she didn't get the goal, she won the PK. And then for, like you said, for Edmond to just slot it home, going into halftime as the home side, it's a different energy, right? Like if you're going into halftime and you get that equalizer. But I think it led to an even more interesting second half, because nobody was trying to give too much and nobody was trying to really kind of slam it home, and it ends up being this one draw. It stays 1-1 throughout the duration of the 90 minutes, and you can't, for me, somebody like me watching this, knowing that we're gonna have to report on it or talk about it on the podcast and recap it, I'm just kind of like, gosh, like Kansas City is like it for me, like in this second half. They are one of my absolute second half favorite stories of the second half of this season. Because I was like, wow, I was like, they're going to be their, I was already doing the numbers. I'm like, this is going to be their second consecutive, like home undefeated, match for them. And watching Kristen Edmonds remaining this this absolute constant figure for this team, because we've seen her all over the place for this Kansas City side, and just like wherever she is slotting in, just sort of kind of like your real blue collar type of player, just kind of wakes up, packs her lunch, punches in, does her job. And like, that's what you have come to expect from this player, which is it's sort of for me, it's echoing a little bit of maybe what is to come and see from this team moving forward. So, I mean, this team, like you said, Lisa, you referred to, they played them to another draw, this same Gotham team to another draw this season. This Kansas City side has gone head to head with other what are considered top tier teams in this league, or in 2021 playoff teams in this league, and they have stolen points off of these teams. I mean, they have gotten 2 draws against Gotham FC. They have gotten points off of North Carolina Courage. They gotten points out of Portland Thorns FC. They defeated OL Reign at a time when OL Reign was like really starting to hit their peak. So it has just like been an absolute joy to watch this team. And for Gotham, they're gonna have to wait. They're gonna have to wait now. So Lisa, let's look ahead a little bit. Even though this isn't the official NWSL preview, let's tease it a little bit. There's gonna be a final week coming up in NWSL play. And we're going to not just have like a decision day for some of these teams. It's like we're going to have a decision week for some of these teams, because as we head into this final week of the 2021 regular NWSL season, there are still 3 playoff positions up for grab in anywhere, right? Depending on this final week.
Truly so fun.
4 to 5 teams in the mix for these games. It's a very, very exciting time in NWSL.
It is so exciting. I mean, how can it not be? Because Kansas City is here to just spoil the day for everyone. And I know we touched on Kristen Edmonds and how fantastic she's been doing, and she has been, but also Darian Jenkins. I just want to give a shout out to her, because she is still a little bit unpolished. You can tell she's young in this league and new and still trying to find all the pieces. And face it, she's been on a team, Kansas City, that has had a lot of ups and downs, but the team as a whole is really finding themselves in these last few weeks, and they're figuring out how they can play as a unit on the field, especially the 11 that are consistently in there, and then even not so consistently with who got the start against Gotham. But when you look at Darian Jenkins, it's a little bit unpolished, but she is figuring out what her skill set is against other NWSL opponents, and her combination with Hamilton and Jenkins has grown. They've figured out how to play together. It's establishing. It's like a boiling pot of water, and before long, it's just going to blow up and blow over. And I hope it happens this next week, because I don't want to wait until next season because we don't get playoffs from Kansas City. So I'm hoping that it's just fireworks, and I'm talking about the type of fireworks that we see a lot from players like Purse and Anamanu, and they're on the pitch together. It's like they're twins almost, and the telepathy. They know where they're running. They know how to play off of each other. I'm pumped for that. But man, decision day, decision week, Gotham's probably a little upset. This was their chance to secure a playoff spot. They can still win out and be second place in the standings, and they can still host a semifinal match, get a first round bye, and still host, because we mentioned that Kansas City, they're unbeaten in their last 7 matches now at home. Purse has 5 goals in the last 5 matches, and Gotham is now technically unbeaten in their last 6 matches because this one was a draw. So the rolls keep on rolling here, and the stats and the play for these two teams. But Kansas City, now they're just 1 game behind everyone else in the league. They still have another one to go. I mean, playoff picture is so exciting right now.
It is, and we're going to keep an eye on it. Stay tuned for our preview. We'll obviously get into more of the different scenarios that come into play within the final week when we start getting into deeper dives on all of the teams. But for now, Gotham still need to get the job done. They have the most games left in hand remaining on this one. Like Lisa mentioned, they could end up in second place if certain things roll out the way that they roll out, and that would mean other different circumstances for other teams. But let's take a look at these standings as they close out for this week. As of now, in first place, it is still Portland Thorns FC with 43 points. In second place, it's OO Reign with 39 points. In third place, it's Washington Spirit with 36 points. In fourth place, Chicago Red Stars with 35 points. In fifth place, New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC with 33 points. In sixth place is Houston Dash with 32 points. On the outside, looking into playoff position, in seventh place is North Carolina Courage with 32 points. Eliminated, officially moving on in the rest of the standings. In eighth place is Orlando Pride with 28 points. In ninth place, Racing Louisville FC with 20 points. And in 10th place, but still racking up points, Kansas City NWSL with 16 points. So that is your standing. It's true, though. They're racking them up. That is your standings right now for NWSL as we head into the final week of NWSL regular season action with multiple playoff spots on the line. Stick around. We've got a preview for the United States Women's National Team game coming up against South Korea, and we will be back with that preview right after a quick break. International window action continues. United States Women's National Team will play South Korea on Tuesday in St. Paul, Minnesota. This team coming off of a scoreless draw previously against the side. It's going to be the second of a 2-game series against the South Korean side. This final match really being billed as the farewell match for U.S. Women's National Team legend Carli Lloyd. So we have some questions for this match. We were wondering, Lisa and I, what the starting lineup is going to look like. And we thought to ourselves, what could be fun? Something that we did last time during the international windows. What if we did a wish list? So what if we did another starting 11 wish list? So Lisa and I are going to do that for you all right now. We had a little bit of giggles as we were content planning this because we both kind of feel as if maybe we might have similar starting 11s. But I'm going to pitch it to you, my dear co-host. What would you like to see in the farewell match of Carli Lloyd against South Korea?
I just have to say, I love doing our wish lists. I feel so powerful. I feel like Vlatko and Danovsky, setting the lineup, writing their names on the board. The excitement is growing for these players. Yeah, but we'll see if it actually happens. Okay, so I have AD Franch in goal. She did tremendous last week. I think she's on something. And yeah, that game was in Kansas City. It was her hometown, but I'm going to keep her in goal. So much love to Jane Campbell, but we're going to stick with Franch for today or for Tuesday. Then we're going to have Casey Kruger on the outside back position. She did fantastic. She really got up. I want to see her actually getting into the attack more so than she did the first time the U.S. played South Korea, because towards the end of the first half, she was doing it a lot more. And at the start of the second half, she was truly overlapping and sending crosses in. So I want her to have that energy when she starts the game. She has we saw glimpses of that, and I'm going to giving her the start because I want her confidence to grow in that outside back position. Davidson and Becky Sauerbrunn in center back duo. Every corner kick, I'm drawing up a Becky Sauerbrunn goal, so we're going to work on that one for her. And then I want Emily Fox to start on the outside right back position. So Kruger on the left and Fox on the right. I'm not sure if she deserves the start, but I want her to have it with confidence and alongside playing with Davidson, Sauerbrunn, and Kruger. I want her to be a little bit more aware that if Kruger goes up so much, she needs to still go up, but be aware of exposing the US's back line, especially against South Korea's side, because they have some really fast forwards. We saw that in Ji and Chu and everything that we saw from South Korea. Herrera will be defensive midfielder again for me. I don't think Andi Sullivan's ready to play in this one. Why risk her? Washington has an NWSL playoffs on the line. I'm sticking with Lindsay Herrera. Kat Macario and Christy Mewis in our attacking 10 and 8 positions. I think that the speed and the quickness and the lightning of Christy Mewis that she brings, along with the composure and the incredible technical skill of Kat Macario, could be a fun pairing. In front, I have to start Carli Lloyd. I'm going to give her 90 minutes in this match. We'll see if that actually happens, alongside Mallory Pugh and Lynn Williams. Just some speed. Why not start it with those attacking three? We saw that before in the Paraguay games, and those three did really well together. The speed and the composure balance between that front starting three. I think I'm going to get a win if I have this lineup here for the U.S. Sandra, how similar are we?
I feel that. I want to say we're pretty. We start off somewhat similarly, but I want to say there's actually some differences here in our wish list. Again, just to emphasize, these are things that we would like to see happen, and I think within mine, I'm actually going to put in some different scenarios as well. But I actually have the starting goalkeeper with Campbell. I think I'm in the same vibe where with the September friendlies, we wanted to see each of these goalkeepers, get a game. I'm in the same camp still where I want to see that happen again the October friendlies here. So I would like to see Jane Campbell get a start in this one. And as far as the back line, I'm same rationale in terms of having Kruger out there. I mean, Crystal Dunn opted out of these matches. It's a real opportunity to maybe sort of for head coach Vlatko Donasi to sort of see what's available at these outside back positions. And in terms of caps on the defensive back line at that outside back position, it's probably Casey Kruger with the most of those. And even in then, it's not a whole lot. So for her to be able to get more time, get more confidence in this position moving forward, I think is important. So I also have Kruger getting the start with the center back duo of Sauerbrunn and Tierna Davidson. But I see maybe somebody like Brune getting possibly 45 in this one, and maybe bringing on a Dahlkemper and splitting those things. Because again, while we're talking a lot about the outside back position, I think we're also have to pay attention to that center back duo, because similar to somebody like Carli Lloyd or maybe some of the older forwards as well, Becky Sauerbrunn is the captain of this team and of a certain age and in a certain phase of her career. So we're going to have to continue to see some different center back looks and pairings as well. But I have Emily Fox getting the start in this one also. So I think for that back line, we're pretty much spot on. We were like connected with that. This is what we want to see to start this game. In the midfield, I have a different scenario because of how I'm thinking of how symbolic things will look within this final farewell game. I've got Macario, Lavelle, and Mewis in this one, just because Andi Sullivan is questionable. It was mentioned on the broadcast that they kept her out of the first game in the hopes that she can participate in the second South Korea match. But who's to say it's probably going to be a game time or game day decision. And I'm with you, Lisa. I think maybe if she's not 100%, you just sit her for a match like this, considering what she has in front of her for club. But I don't have Mewis, or I don't have Herrera for this start, just because of what we've seen in the background on socials, where there's sort of this ceremonious passing of the number 10 to somebody like a Lindsay Herrera. And typically in the past of a final, when an icon tends to retire, they tend to sub on the player that is supposed to sort of represent their place moving forward. So for somebody
You're
like,
gonna make me cry, Sandra.
I don't want to make you cry, but I'm just going off of history here. It happened, when Mia Hamm retired. It also happened when Heather O'Reilly retired. And you want to talk about a testament to a player. When Heather O'Reilly subbed off, they subbed off nobody in her place because she was deemed irreplaceable as the number 9. But Abby Wambach Wyatt coming off and Kristen Press coming on in her place, 2 epic goal scorers for this team. And I wouldn't be too shocked if Carli Lloyd maybe goes, a full 90 because she's Carli Lloyd, but I also won't be surprised if they sub her off, depending on the scoreline in the 75th or 80 minutes, to sort of give her that acknowledgement and sort of give that ceremonious passing of the torch, so to speak, for Herrera to come on. So that's the only reason why I don't have Herrera starting, but who knows? Maybe they're going to get to start together and want them to play together. So the midfield, I've got Macario, Lavelle, and Mewis. And for the top line, I've got Carli Lloyd with the start, of course, in her final women's national team game, alongside Williams, yes, and the opposite side alongside Sophia Smith, actually. So I do want to have some different looks, dynamic, more attacking minded players who are able to get on the ball, dribble, penetrate. So I'm looking for Williams and Smith there, and I'm thinking Carli Lloyd wants to get on the end of some of those with some headers. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for the match for sure, because I think there's gonna, like, even though we're doing wish lists and these are just sort of what we do for fun here, I do hope it is a fun game. You want to see that when it comes to those type of games that can kind of carry that sort of emotion for not just this one player who's stepping away from the game, but for others on the team as they're starting to have time to reflect on this type of player. We're hearing more about it, and more players talking about Carli Lloyd and that Carli Lloyd instinct, and how they look to that as an example, actually, when it comes to sort of being a driving force of never quitting and staying relentless. So I would love there to see the starting lineup have that rotation like we hope it might be, and maybe see a little bit of a mix where it is some veteran players and a mix of kind of current, like present and future players. So I hope we get to see that on Tuesday, Lisa.
I think we might, honestly. This is such a big moment in Vlatko Andonovski's team and in U.S. soccer, because it is the last one for Carli Lloyd. So already there's a kind of a hole to be filled on this team, which it can be done, especially with Lindsey Horan. I think it's so special and honestly so touching that Carli Lloyd chose to make that announcement on her own personal Instagram before the game. And we kind of saw it go viral over the last few days over social media about how she will be passing on for number 10 to Herrera. But I want to dive into the tactics of this a little bit. And I pose a question for you, Sandra. In this first match against South Korea, the back line was Kruger, Davidson, Sauerbrunn, and then Kelly O'Hara on the one side. And South Korea really keyed in on Kelly O'Hara. Every time she got the ball trying to build out of the back for the U.S., they collapsed on her. They sent 2 defenders in and then another defender to the center back. So it was difficult for her to play backwards, really trying to pin in Kelly O'Hara. I'm sure that was a tactic in South Korea watching the United States play as to which side they would choose. If the other side was Crystal Dunn, she's going to run with the ball and she's going to push up, similar to how Casey Kruger has played. So I'm not surprised that they keyed in on a specific player in Kelly O'Hara. Now, based on our starting back line, we have Kruger, Davidson, Sauerbrunn, and Fox. If South Korea sees Fox starting in that lineup in the backside where Kelly O'Hara was, and they saw Fox get a few minutes on Thursday night in this match, and they saw her really floating all over the pitch, do they change their defensive pressure tactics when they see Fox and Kruger in the outside back?
I mean, possibly. I think they might. They don't have a lot. The thing is, the benefit to the U.S. team is that South Korea doesn't have a lot of footage on Emily Fox at the moment. She hasn't had a ton of national team, senior national team minutes with this squad. And really, what they have to go on is the most recent footage where she kind of got those at the 20 minutes, half hour against them on Thursday night. But we saw out of this South Korea team, they make these sort of in-game adjustments. This wasn't a team that this wasn't a team that went out there and they're like, okay, this was the game plan and we're gonna see it through for 45 minutes of this first half. We saw them making adjustments in game, mid game. So I would say there's a strong possibility that they test the waters, because I think I'm going to throw it back to that first game. They tested the waters out a little bit very early in that first game, and they did try to attack that left side right away with Megan Rapinoe and Casey Kruger. And when we saw that kind of very quick counter press kind of go, we saw them try to attack, dig, pin. But this combined effort of like Casey Kruger and Tierna Davison, they saw that they were unable to sort of break that down, and then we quickly saw them switch it up and start to center in on the opposite side. So I think we could see a little bit of similar tactic from South Korea. I think I won't be surprised if they take a look and have different scenarios in this one. So maybe they try to go at Fox first and they are unsuccessful. Maybe they try to go back on the other side and attack the other flank. But we've seen this team make mid in game adjustments. So we'll see. I don't know. It's a real 50-50 for me. It's a good question though.
If they do attack Fox in, say, the first 10, 15 minutes, or they try to pin Fox in on that side, she's not going to be there.
Yeah.
If you watch Emily Fox play, you know that she pushes so high or she cuts inside. Even when the U.S. is building out of the back, it almost really looks like a 3-back when you have someone like Emily Fox in there, because she is a true wing back in the way that she moves up the field. She's not really part of that build out anymore. So I'm interested to see what they do, because if they try to pin in that side, it'll really just be like Becky Sauerbrunn. But Becky Sauerbrunn can handle that type of pressure and it's fine and we move on. So that's what I'm really keyed in on the first 10, 15 minutes, to see how South Korea starts to pressure and where they focus their high press, which side of the field, when you split the field vertically, left or right, they try to pin in, and then how they make those changes, because you're right, they're a very smart team. They're coached by very good people that understand how to communicate with them, and they can read the game very, very well, that these changes will happen on the fly. It'll be minuscule. I'm sure whoever the commentators are, they'll pick them out for you. I know Julie Foudy does always such a great job at that. But yeah, that's something to definitely key in on. And this is all, of course, only if Vlatko Andonovski goes with our starting back lines. This may not even be a topic of conversation if it's Kelly O'Hara again, because they'll just pin her in.
Yeah, no, and you know what? We'll see what happens when that lineup rolls out. We'll probably be texting each other and then we'll hop on and talk about it. But it's so true. I think when you're looking at this type of the tactics that we've sort of seen out of this national team, you kind of do. You have to have two outside backs who can do both, of course. Ones that can get in the attack, but ones that can also defend. But as the game progresses, you have to sort of give way. So is your right side of your attack going to be more active, or is your left side of the attack be more active? So in that case, you have to have your other outside back being able to anchor things. And I think when it comes to the defensive side of things, I think we both know that Casey Kruger is very great at being at defending 1v1. So we'll see. Hopefully Vlatko does start Emily Fox, so we can have that to chat about in the recap. But we'll see. Everybody stay tuned. I want to thank you all for listening. As always, another reminder to follow us on Twitter at Attacking Third. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and anywhere you listen to your podcast shows. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts with a question, and Lisa and I will answer it as part of our mailbag segment. It's a segment that we've introduced this year. It's only a couple months old, and we have had so much fun getting questions from everybody and answering them on the mailbag segment. So head on over to Apple Podcasts, leave the 5-star review with a question, and we'll answer it during the segment. We're also available as video, so please subscribe to us on YouTube. Visit youtube.com/attacking third. Subscribe so you never miss a thing whenever we go live, and you can catch great extended highlights of NWSL matches. And Lisa and I will be back Tuesday with a live U.S. women's national team recap against South Korea. So come on back Tuesday night, post game with us, hang out, get our takes, get our opinions, get our giggles, and everything else. We love hanging out with you all post game. For Sandra Herrera and Lisa Roman, this was Attacking Third.